Okay, hi, welcome to this video where we are trying to explain the various synchronization models in VRChat. To this end, I've built this scene where there are three cubes. Each cube has its own variable which wants to synchronize among players. So for example, no sync, yes, this is the very simple and naive situation where if I click on interact with the cube, a counter is incremented. And this is implemented with this very simple script here. I have a counter and then an interact, and whenever I interact with the cube, then the counter is incremented and I have counter incremented. Okay, this I can see the effect of this on the back console. And the problem with this implementation, which is the naive implementation, is that only every person has a copy of this script, and so if we want to share the value of the variable, for example, if we want to have a variable counter that remembers, for example, that I have clicked it 10 times, then when arrives a second player, I would like that it knows that the variable is 10, not 0. So this doesn't work with multiplayer, and we will see at the end one example where I run 2 instances of players and then try each of these combination with the console open so we can try to see what's happening. So having in mind this situation, a variable and which is incremented, and so if we want to synchronize the variable until May or April in 2021, we had only one method, which is a script with the synchronization method continuous. And this script is essentially this sync old style here. And the method is a bit more complex in the sense that the variable which must be shared must have Udon synced in Udon sharp. And then whenever we want to interact with it, we must be sure to be the owner of the object, the cube. So we need to request ownership. And when the ownership is granted, then we can increment counter. And here there is just a log that the counter is incremented. Okay. The problem with this implementation is that to be sure that every other player in the world can see the value, VRChat has to broadcast the value of all the variables, of all the objects, the script, and this is made 4 times a second, every second. So if there are a lot of objects with many shared variables, this rapidly comes to a very heavy traffic on the internet, and so produces a lot of lag. So I put this, which is not needed, which is on the serialization, which understands when there is one broadcasting on the network, and we will see after that this on the serialization is called a lot of time, and so this is able to kill the performances of every word in VRChat. So this method, even if it is relatively straightforward, and so you have just to put a comment here, udon synced, and be sure to request the ownership on the object. And in this way, so just with 2 tricks, you are good with sharing, but as I told you before, it is not friendly for the network, so it is essentially a bad solution. VRChat found this is a very bad problem with the architecture, the design of the architecture, and then propose a new way of doing this, which is the new sync. New sync new style is a bit more complex. Maybe we can check it here. And here I've made actually 2 solutions. For the moment, just ignore this. So we are doing exactly the same thing as before, which is udon synced, but we specify that behavior sync mode is manual. Actually, this can be also done with the new sync, putting here instead of continuous, you put here manual. Now you cannot change this, but normally when you create a script, you can do. Probably this is because I put it here as a tag. Okay, so what happens is that when you actually interact, you have to get ownership, like in the old style method, and then you have to request manually, which is completely non-automatic, the exact moment in which you want the counter, the variable, which is this int counter, be serialized. So when we put here one on the serialization, in the example at the end, you will see that the amount of serialization made with this new method is really limited. This solution has a small problem. This is why I made another kind of advanced solution, because whenever sometimes you want to do something when a variable changes, so you don't have any way for understanding when the variable actually changes. So the only way to you had, even with this solution, was to go here on the serialization and then check which variable has changed value, and so make something if a specific variable has changed. But there is a new version of SDK which arrived lately in I think in June, July, probably June, that enables you to specify one kind of field change callback in Udon Sharp. Actually, this is a relatively different function in the Udon graph, but it is implemented this way in Udon Sharp. And when you specify this, you can specify exactly one getter or setter especially, that is called specifically when this variable, when one variable which is udon synced has changed. So this is a trick where you can easily understand that especially counter 2 value, so I have a second counter, second variable has changed, and you can do something specific here when this variable changes, without the need to hold an intermediate variable for example, a save counter, and every time in the serialization check if which variable is changed. So this is a third solution, and also to check if this is working, I added some debug function, which is this network event, which is change counter 1. In this case, I just use this event to increment counter, and what is very strange in this kind of test I did is that if I did a request serialization, actually the variable was transmitted twice. So I think it's a bit now, in the last version of SDK, it should be very smart to understand that when the sync value is incremented, then it is automatically serialized. And if we do request serialization, actually it would be double. Okay, I think you have to put some debug like this in your code to be sure when exactly this happens. So maybe not for all your programs, but just setting up some template programs and check them properly. So now in the second part of this video, I will show you what happens exactly in the three situations. Okay, here, as I promised, is the implementation of two players. I'm running, building and testing with SDK for VRChat, and we are now trying to check the working of the three solution or the fourth solution. So no synchronization, old style synchronization, and new style synchronization. To understand what's happening, we need to check the console. So we use the right shift tilde 3 here, and also we go on the other here and do the same. So right shift tilde 3, okay. And so now there is just one thing that you can see here on the left, because the right side is the master, so the first player, and the left part is actually the second player, which is receiving, as you see, a lot of synchronization, single style, the serialization. And this happens because the script in old synchronization is still working. But let's do one thing at a time. So if we go on no sync and click here, you will see that the counter is incremented by 1 each time that I click. So no sync counter is 8. So the problem here is that if I go here and click on no sync, I don't see the value of variables that has been set by the other. So if I click here, you see counter is 1, but the first player, the other player, has set it to 8. So the two variables are not synchronized. This is exactly what we expected. So now let's go to the second, which is here. It's a bit difficult with the bug, but old sync. If we click here, you see that counter is 1, but if you see on the left, the sync old style has received 1. So if we keep on clicking, and so we go to 11, then you see that the other player, as well as the 11 value, so we have synced at the end. And if we click on the other player, click, then as you see, the ownership of the object has been transferred to the other player. The other player has changed the counter to 12, and now I have 12, so I see that 11 clicks has been done by the other player. So the old synchronization is quite good, except for, as you see here, that there is a lot of log, that is 4 times every second we receive a synchronization with all the sync, and this is very bad for the network, because there is a lot of traffic going to every player, and this is clearly visible in this number. Can you see the number on the right, which is rapidly increasing, because the console, whenever the message is the same, just keep it compact. So let's go instead on the new one. And the new one is a bit more complex, but if I click on the new sync here, you can see the new style tells me that I'm actually incrementing, but if you see, sync new style is not doing anything on the network unless instructed. So it is very, very efficient with the network, and this is really the way to go. So for example, now I have 2 counters. One counter is counter 1, which is going 1 by 1. Counter 2 is going 10 by 10. So now I'm arrived at 13. If I go here and go on the third, let's go here and 13, so I can go to the 14, which is very good. There are in this scene there are also some two spheres that are just calling send network events to the new entry, and maybe I can put it a bit. Okay, so this is a bit more understandable. So this is just changing counter 1, and this is changing counter 2. The only difference is further efficiency in the understanding which, especially in this case, counter 2 has a proper syntax, and it's very easy to understand that exactly counter 2 has changed. But unless this sophistication, which maybe it's a bit complex, the new sync is not difficult to use. And I will go back to the script and just go to another time to the various styles. So the sync old style here, which is just Udon synced, and networking set owner. But we have seen clearly that this makes some problems. And old sync, this is the cube. And remember that this is a synchronization method which is continuous. While if you go to cube new sync, okay, here, then you see synchronization method is manual. This is because in the script is explicitly set up. And if we go again on this sync new style, you can see that Udon synced. Let's stick with the easier part, which is Udon synced counter 0, counter 1. And we just do exactly as in the other method, and we just do that, but we add a request serialization. And we see that on the serialization is called only when we request serialization in this part. This is the second part, which is, no, this one is second part, which is a bit more complex. If we add the field change callback on another, in this case, setter, counter 2, this probably understand that we have to, that it has to do the send serialization whenever you change it with setter, this. In this case, you don't need any, when somebody changes the counter 2, then the serialization, the request for serialization is already there. So it's working. So probably when serialize, it's serializing everything, and it's now, and this is, I think, maybe not all, maybe they are changing something in the future, but it seems that now it's hundreds of times more efficient than in the past. So I hope this explains a bit more clearly how the various methods of synchronizations work.